What's up, guys? This is Demons Only. It's a curated lineup channel. I use PrizePicks as a platform. Reason I call it Demons Only is because PrizePicks has these cute little things called demons, and there's green ones called goblins. Goblins typically pay out from 2 to 10 times your money, so you could make some money using goblins. Demons pay out anywhere from 15 to 100 times your money. The reason I use demons is because the demon lineup gives a bigger payout with the least amount of risk. Right? I can bet $5 on a 4-man demon lineup and it may give me 18 times my money. That puts me in the ballpark of, $200, somewhere around there. So I can turn $5 into $200. Or I could even turn in $10 to $1,000. Also, I didn't necessarily like how some of the other videos are displayed. I don't actually get to see the lineup submission, but also I can tell you, who to bet on. But if I'm not risking my money right alongside you, am I really giving it that much thought or doing that much homework? So, as you can see, this is my personal account. I have $120 right now. That was a lot more before I deposited, but my girlfriend would get mad if I did not deposit it. So, without further ado, let's select the first person in our pick. We're going to do four 4-man lineups, 2 per game. So we're going to do 2 for the Buffalo Bills Jacksonville game, and then 2 for the Washington Cincinnati game. So right now, as you can see, we got Ed Oliver for 1/4 of a sack. I love that one. And another great pick is Greg Rousseau for 1/4 of a sack. Reason I picked Ed Oliver and Rousseau is because Jacksonville has given up 3 sacks in the past 2 games for a total of 6. And the Bills have had an average of 3 sacks per game. And the sacks have originated between Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, and Von Miller. Those are the only 3 guys that have anything that resembles a sack in the past 2 games, and they account for all of the Bills' sacks. So these 2 guys getting 1/4 of a sack should be easy money. Now let's see, next pick is Trevor Lawrence. So also the thing with demons, and I think people get scared, not necessarily scared, but are less likely to put them in the lineup because they are less likely to hit, allegedly, because they pay out, a lot more. Something that pays out a lot more, we tend to think that there's a catch, right, or it's not going to hit. And I think if we're smart and we work together, put together some lineups that are matchup specific and not so much, hey, I like this guy, he should be great today. If we do that, we stay unbiased, we should be able to put together some winning lineups. Now, I'm not going to sit here and promise that every lineup's going to win. That is a complete lie, and if anybody tells you that, they're probably lying. No one has a 100% win rate on anything, ever. So, I'm going to be honest with you guys. There are going to be some losses. There are going to be some wins. That's why we do demons, because the wins should outpay the losses, right? We want to stay in the black at all times. So, got Trevor Lawrence for the rushing yards. Why do we have Trevor Lawrence for the rushing yards? He had 2 rushes, 22 yards apiece last week, but also the Bills had a hard time corralling Kyler Murray. He rushed for 57 yards on 5 carries in week 1. Week 2, they had the Tua. They picked him off 3 times. Now, you're thinking, well, they held Tua. So Tua is more of a pocket passer, right? He is reading the defense, and I'm going to throw it to Tyreek Hill. I'm going to throw it to Jalen Waddle, things like that. Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray don't necessarily work within the same offense, but they have the same mindset. Rather, if something opens up, they will take off, and they will get the yardage to get the first down. I'm not saying Tua doesn't run, but Tua is less likely to run due to having, such a powerhouse of a receiving core. You got Tyreek Hill burning people for 100 yards. It's pretty hard to run when you got that guy out there. Last pick of the 4-man lineup for this first one is Khalil Shakir. Why are we picking Khalil Shakir? Khalil Shakir, he kind of solidified himself as that wide receiver 1, but mostly, like we said, we don't want to be biased, right? He plays in the slot most of the downs, and Jacksonville struggles to cover slot receivers. Also, Jacksonville has a ton of injuries on defense. They're banged up left and right, but mostly they allowed, I'm going off their last 2 games, they allowed 73 yards to Jerry Jeudy out of the slot. They covered Amari Cooper too much, and then same thing to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is wide receiver 1, but he does play in the slot a lot more than he plays on the outside. Most of the time he plays on the outside, he's going deep for that one-on-one coverage. So now we got a 4-man lineup here. All right, this is another reason why I only do 4-man lineups. It gives me the ability to pick a power play, which is this little thing right here. So if we hit 4 out of 4, we get 33 times our money. As you can see, the payout down here is $20. That payout is $660 if all 4 of those guys hit. And like I said, if we're going off of matchups, they are likely to hit. This is another reason why I wanted to build the channel. You guys get to see me put my money where my mouth is. And if I hit, I hit. If I don't, I don't. You can follow along with me. I'm going to keep doing this every day. And we'll do NFL and MLB. Today's just NFL because we had 2 games. It's a lot to cover. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, probably do both MLB, and then Thursday, MLB and NFL. Friday and Saturday would be MLB, so on and so forth until the NFL games come along, because that's a lot of homework to do. So submit that lineup. Did it submit? Did it not submit? It's still submitting. There we go. Alright, lineup successfully submitted. Saw the account withdrawn from there. Let's go back to the board so we can submit our second lineup of this game. So I like Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen's a great quarterback. Does that mean that I'm going to pick him just because I think he's a great quarterback? No. Right? Like I said, we want to stay unbiased. But I do like this 2 TDs passing. Josh Allen threw for 2 TDs against... Misspoke. My notes here say that Jacksonville is bad versus the pass. Now, why would I say that after they held Amari Cooper to 11 yards? Because Deshaun Watson and the Browns are not necessarily a powerhouse when it comes to receiving, like Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins, in which they gave up 336 yards and 2 TDs. Do I think that Josh Allen and his receiving core are as good as the Dolphins? The quarterback, yes. The receiving core, not necessarily. Josh Allen likes to spread the ball around, and I think that will give him the ability to throw those 2 touchdowns. Also, Jacksonville plays the run very well. Very, very well. They haven't given a running back more than a 70-yard game in the past 2 weeks. They held Jerome Ford to 64 yards in week 2. And I believe in week 1, they only gave up 24 yards to Devon Achane. So that is crazy. So obviously, Josh Allen's going to have to pass if the Bills expect to score. What we got next? Brenton Strange. Brenton Strange, tight end, due to Jacksonville's Evan Ingram being out. So we're doing the 40 yards. As you can see, if I click that again, it turns into another demon. I think the payout would be higher if we go for the 50. I'm only comfortable doing the 40. He had a monster game last week. He had like 80 yards on 3 receptions. It was nuts. I don't expect that every week. But what I do expect is for Jacksonville to be in a negative game script against the Bills. Therefore, they're going to throw a lot. And if they throw a lot, likely that gentleman and this guy right here, Brian Thomas, are going to be the only, not the only targets, but they're going to be, the higher targeted members of the Jacksonville Jaguar receiving squad. I know everybody likes Gabe Davis. I don't think Gabe Davis is a bad receiver. Neither do I think Christian Kirk is. I just think that Thomas, he's had 4 targets each game. He had 96 yards last game. and he's usually the guy they look for the deep ball, and I expect Trevor Lawrence to be slinging it. This game, he had 32 dropbacks last game against the Browns, and that was because they weren't a negative game script, so we gotta watch that carefully, right? You don't want to always, oop, what in the hell did I do? Right, if Josh Allen's dropping back 30 times, he's throwing it too. A significant amount of people, but mostly I believe that it would go to Thomas and Strange. And so I just talked about Jacksonville and how they played the run very well. I don't like James Cook for 80 yards. I don't even like him for the 65 yards. The only way I can see that happening is if Buffalo pulls away significantly and all they're doing is trying to run down the clock. That's really the only thing that I can see. So, but I do like James Cook for 25 receiving yards. Why do I like that? They gave up 76 yards to Devon Achane in week 1, and they gave up 50 yards in week 2 to James Conner. Nope, sorry, not James Conner. That was the Bills. They gave up, the Browns is not a passing running back type team, and that is why they didn't have a whole lot of running back receiving yards. Jerome Ford and Dante Foreman also aren't on the same level as Devon Achane or James Cook. I just think the Browns as a whole aren't really settled in as an offense. Defensively, they're great. They're a great team. I just think that offensively they haven't really settled in and decided whether they're going to be gut check, just straight up run all the time, or they're going to let Deshaun Watson sling it. But when they figure that out, they should be a team to be reckoned with. So let's put in this lineup. Like I said, we want to keep it at 4, right? If we choose a 5th member, it no longer gives us the power play. And also, I don't like our odds with 5 people. 4 people seems to be right around the number that I want to stick at, so that's kind of where I want to go. But if you do want to put a 5th, I think Jamar Chase for a touchdown isn't a bad idea. Neither do 60,000 other people. But he hasn't found the end zone in the past 2 games. Now against Washington, I do think that that's going to change because he is the number 1 receiver, and Washington gave up around 100 yards to Malik Neighbors. So let's put in this $15 lineup. That's a $500 payout if it hits. Like I said, I'm never going to promise hits. Never, ever, ever. You might hit 3 out of 4 and get very upset. The thing is consistency. If you keep playing the game, eventually you're going to win. All right. We got 2 more lineups to put in. We got Cincinnati versus Washington. First person there is Robinson Jr. Let's see if it'll load. Oops. There we go. All right, Brian Robinson Jr. We're taking the over. We're taking the over on the rush yards. Why are we doing that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, Cincinnati is bad against the run. They also have 3 defensive team members. Well, 1 questionable, 2 out for sure. They got B.J. Hill, right defensive tackle, and Sheldon Rankins, left defensive tackle. So their defensive line is just, the only person on there is, what is his name? Hawkinson. No. There's only 1 good defensive line member of the Cincinnati Bengals, and you guys know his name. I am drawing a blank here. The other potential out, he's a game-time decision, is going to be Von Bell, strong safety. He's a game-time decision, so again, that could affect their secondary. But they have been bad against the run in the past 2 weeks. They gave up 120 to Ramondre Stevenson, and they gave up 90 to Pacheco. So, I mean, there is just ample opportunity for Robinson to just have a game. There's also pretty good opportunity for Eckler, which is who we're going to put in another lineup as well. Let's go down the line. We got Burrow. I got Burrow for the yards. I got Burrow for the passing yards. He's at 299. That's a demon. That's a demon for sure. But he did throw 258 versus Casey. Way better defense. Way better defense. Now, it was a closer game, so hopefully Washington can keep this relatively close. And then they will be passing a lot more. Jamar Chase, not Chase Brown. We're going for Jamar Chase, and we're going for the receiving yards. Why are we going for the receiving yards? As I said earlier, Malik Neighbors, they gave up 100 yards to just one receiver. I mean, he did have like 18 targets, so there is that. But I do think that Chase is relatively a more seasoned receiver. And also he's not very happy, so I'm assuming that they're going to be throwing it a lot to him this game with a bad defense. Austin Eckler, 25 rushing yards. My man, they're doing you so dirty. Such a great running back. Man, such a great running back. And they put him at 25 yards as a demon. That's downright disrespectful. So we're putting in another $15. That's a $255 payout. Eckler, same thing as Brian Robinson. Cincinnati's bad against the run. They've been bad against the run. They have those 2 injuries. Their defensive line is torn up. Just in general, what's kept them in the game is their passing and their offense. So that's why I like Eckler. And also, there was questions whether or not Robinson and Eckler would be used in the passing game or if it was just going to be Eckler. But they've both been used pretty evenly. And even with that, Eckler's still gotten at least, 10 rushing attempts per game. So we got Mike Gesicki for 40 receiving yards. Sorry, not passing. He had 90 yards versus Kansas City, and now he is going up against a worse defense, and Joe Burrow is going to be slinging the rock all game. So I expect Gesicki, because he is the second favorite target aside from Jamar Chase. Zach Moss. Now, Zach Moss has not had many great outings. Actually, no great outings at all, really. But I do expect him to have a game this week. At least I hope so, because Cincinnati should be in a positive game script. And second half, they should be running the ball a lot more to run down the clock. We're going to go Jaden Daniels for the rush yards, 70. And the reason I like Daniels for the 70, I'm sure most of you know, the guy runs, and he runs a lot. He ran for 44 yards, I believe, in his last game, and 80 yards in week 1. They also gave up 29 to Mahomes and 32 to Jacoby Brissett. Neither of those guys run a lot, so I think Jaden Daniels for 70 rush yards would be a good line. What do we got left? Another Burrow square. Oops. What was that guy? No, I didn't spell that wrong. Joe Burrow. 3 passing TDs. I do believe so. Like we said, Washington's bad against the pass. They gave up 2 to Daniel Jones, who has just had an atrocious start to the season. I mean, golly, they wanted to throw him out. The Giants fans did not want him there, but he had a pretty good game last week. Like I said, he gave up 2 touchdowns to Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones. That'll wrap up our lineups for today as far as the NFL goes. Like I said, we're going to be going multiple games. We'll be doing MLB as well. As you can see, we went from 120 down to 60, so that was 4 lineups, all for $15. That's $60 with the potential to win, $2,000 if they hit. So bear with me. Keep an eye out. I'll upload these every day. Probably do MLB tomorrow, and then so on and so forth until NFL comes back on Thursday. We'll be bouncing back and forth. I do like doing MLB lineups. I've hit most recently on MLB lineups. So there's that. Other than that, You guys, good luck. Have a good night. And I hope they hit.